Hi, everybody, and welcome. So far, we heard success stories about successful API pipelines and how they make things more efficient. So let's throw a little bit of AI to just screw it up a little bit. I'm talking mainly about the stuff that goes wrong in automation pipelines for technical documentation. And what goes wrong is small imperceptible things, which is tricky to detect because they're not massive mistakes, but they're small enough to cause some damage, and they are small enough to be hard to discover. So I'm here to talk about the good, the bad, and the ugly. A little bit about me. I'm a tech writer with no computer experience. I barely know how to do console log. And my job security before AI was Google and Stack Overflow, and now, of course, is vibe coding. Yay! My secret weapon is that I'm really, really curious. I'm really, really obstinate, and I ask why until people start to just implode. That's really my secret weapon to get things done. At Booking, embedded in several front-end teams. So we do Docs as code. We do MDX, and we publish through GitLab pages. Most of the documentation that involves tech writers at Booking is internal. So our stakeholders are mainly software engineers. My stakeholders are a mix of UX designers and front-end engineers. So Docs automation works more like all the other pipelines. You have a GitHub or a GitHub pipeline, and there's a bunch of scripts, and there's containers, and there's APIs that take care of all the data exchange and interoperability. It's totally cool until you drop in some AI and you make it very, very brittle, because you go from something that is deterministic to something that may or may not happen. The way we started to tinker a little bit with adding AI to our existing docs pipelines was by identifying some side tasks. Now, the important stuff, not really the writing and not really the big stuff, but taking care of the boring stuff, basically. All those tasks that are very prone to be very error-prone, for example, for humans. They're time-consuming, they're repetitive. The kind of stuff that you can automate with APIs, but that you can hopefully make a little bit more efficient or more human feeling with a pass of AI. You don't need to read the whole thing. Let's say that the green area is all the stuff that we are doing in the pipelines thanks to AI. And the yellow area is what API does in the pipeline. However, none of the green stuff happens without the yellow stuff, because APIs are really at the basis of everything. The results are a very mixed bag. There is some good, some bad, some really ugly. So let's go and see. The good part is AI is good at fetching stuff, fetching the right stuff, usually. If you tell an agent, or if you tell a large language model to go get information from existing sources, and any company has a bunch of different places where they store information, Jira or any other tracking system that you may be using, GitLab or any code base that you're using, existing documentation that can be on Confluence or on a static site or Google Docs, wherever, you tell the agent what to do, and it's pretty good at fetching all this information, giving you an overview of where they found it, and create a first draft. That draft is okay-ish to begin with. And for me as a tech writer, it becomes sort of a rubber ducking experience. You don't have to stare at the blank page. You already have the massive weight of a new feature or a piece of code that you have to document you barely understand. So you can get started from at least a few sentences that tell you how to get going. I use Claude mainly, and Mistral, which is French, and I really like it, to explain the code to me. I literally ask it, I got this function explained to me like on 5. And the first pass is pretty good. And then I ask, well, now help me to explain to people who are 25 are really smart. And then I move on from there. And it's pretty good. This has also helped us get fewer support requests. We have hundreds of teams of engineers, and they log requests, they log support requests. Each team usually consumes tools or services through API requests from other teams, and they should not know how those things work. They should just be using them and consuming them. Generating documentation with AI and also leveraging existing channels, for example, Slack is as a tech writer, I should say that Slack is not documentation, but it's really helpful. Having AI agents that just crawl Slack channels and produce self-service replies has really helped take down the onus of support. It has improved the documentation coverage. Nobody wants to do documentation. I'm paid for it, and I wouldn't do it if I were not paid for it. And nobody wants to read it. In any case, we need to have documentation coverage because somebody tells us that it's good. AI has helped us. From those drafts, it makes also people who are a little bit, how can we say, not really hostile, but they don't really like to write documentation. It really helps them come up with something that then they can refine. And sometimes they even get quite happy about the results. And that's a good sign. We take care, AI has helped us take care of the boring stuff, as I mentioned. There are linters for pros as well that are similar to ESLint. They generate reports. Those reports are horrible to go through. They're very unfriendly, but you can feed it to an AI agent, and the agent will know to do at least a few of those things. And that already makes a dent on your to-do list. And it has raised the consistency because you can tell your language model or your AI agent, go and check for all the repos that have readmes. Go check if all those readmes use our template. If they don't, ping the team that owns the repo and tell them to use the template and actually use the content that is existing now in the README so that they already have something that is pre-populated with actual content instead of boilerplate, for example. This has been quite helpful. However, there are some bad things. My experience of AI, especially with the previous Claude model with Sonnet 3.5 and 3.7, is every time you have a conversation or an interaction with this model where you are talking about just rubber ducking for a piece of documentation you're working on, or trying to figure out a piece of code that you have to describe with documentation. The AI is this guy that you have met at a party, maybe, and that comes to you, and they are happy because maybe it's the third martini that they're having, and they vaguely remember your name, but they mispronounce it. And that already makes a little bit of an edge. And then they corner you so you can move. And they start talking about their favorite hobby, which you cannot care less about. This is my experience with purely, completely 100% generated, AI-generated documentation. It looks good, it's plausible, but it's very shallow and it has no focus, which has two massive red flags in documentation. My abstract idea of my typical audience is somebody who is frustrated, irritated, annoying, and on the verge of a meltdown because they've already tried all the things and nothing works. So the docs are their last resorts and they have to work. The ugly is make shit up all the time. This is how we build large language models. They are, if anybody's old enough to remember Happy Days and the fonts, yes, the fonts couldn't say that he was wrong, and AI cannot say that either. They cannot say no, they cannot say I don't know, and that can lead to massive rabbit holes that are full of poop. It has sycophantic behavior. Everything is amazing. I, just for fun, I started pitching some ideas, and I could have started like 15 startups with all my stupid ideas that were all amazing for the AI. And it's also, it doesn't really have a backbone. So when you challenge the AI, it will immediately say, yeah, you're right. I was trying to come up with a bunch of scripts to automate a few things, and they looked fantastic. And I asked her, are these really good scripts? Yeah, of course they are. But are they production ready? No. No, they're just examples. It's barely boilerplate. You need a proper engineer to do that. I thought you were an engineer. I said, no, I'm really not so good. So what is the actual value of APIs in all this stuff? They're really the plumbing. Without APIs, there's nothing. I am biased. I prefer APIs over AIs because they are much more reliable and they're much more robust. They may not be able to do all the magic, but they do the reliable, the good stuff. They're very good at fetching data, creating data, modifying data, deleting data, all the basic CRUD stuff that AIs use, and they use all the time. APIs are also pretty good at helping orchestration. You can use A2I protocol if you want to coordinate agents, and you can use a ton of MCP servers to talk with each other. But you can also use just API calls. And if you have a choice, it's more reliable to go for calls. Good APIs can just interact between the agents and the MCP. Actually, there's a really nice blog from Cloudflare, I think, from the end of September about Codename. And they explain exactly how to turn basically an MCP server into a TypeScript API, and then instructing the large language model to interact with the API so that they can interact with the MCP server. And they found that having this kind of API in the middle makes using tools much clearer and much more targeted for the agents. It's like giving them really the handbook. They manage tasks, they manage jobs, they do all the grunt work, but they do it consistently and solidly, and they do it all the time. So for me, that's a massive wee for APIs, really. This is just a graphical rendition of what I just said. API take care of all the grunt work, and they do it solidly. You can interact with an MCP server if you want, but the polling sources, the trigger notification, the managing task jobs is something that you should do with APIs because they're there. When you have some doubts, or should I use API because it's so cool, or should I use AI because it's so cool, or should I use an API? My first thoughts is, do you want something that is deterministic, that is replicable, that is always the same? Or do you want something, or do you have some wiggle room there? Something that can be more probabilistic, there's something that can be approximate. Phil, you gave a very good example of using AI to generate test data. Yeah. Exactly. You can generate test data at scale, which is super boring. And then you can also instruct the language model to actually write the actual tests. I've done it using Playwright, and I love Playwright because I don't know shit about JavaScript or TypeScript, and I can use that thing. And with AI, it really helps me write some tests. One other thing, since I'm a little bit stingy, is rate limits versus tokens. APIs have rate limits if you don't vibe code it. But they usually are generous enough, and they still allow you to do a ton of stuff. Tokens are expensive, especially if you don't keep an eye on them. You can really run out of tokens very quickly. There's a bunch of Reddits and subreddits talking about, hey, I've upcoded this app, it's so amazing. And after 2 weeks, oh, $2,000 I got drained because I forgot about API limits. And the AI didn't tell me anything about that, or security. For example, I think that I would always go for OAuth over AI for authorization. And I would never let an AI deal with my transactions. I prefer an API for that. Now let's go to the fails. Typical fails we've had with documentation is just getting 100% coverage in the code, but then you have the date field, and the documentation that the AI generates is the field for the date. Well, yes, but what is it? Which format? Which standard? Doesn't tell me anything. This is something that a former colleague told me at a meetup last month in Amsterdam, and his team was forced, because they didn't want to, but it was so cool, so they was forced to build a backend for a feature that didn't exist. It was an open Jira ticket, but it was not done. But the AI didn't really get it, so I say, hey, it's here, you can build it, it's so amazing. So if that Jira ticket ever gets to done, there's a whole backend there to support it. It's fantastic. This probably you know, Klarna fired all the customer support people because AI can do it. And then it backfired, so it put its own engineers on the phone. I mean, how stupid can you be? And a Carnegie Mellon University set up an entire virtual company, and it was part of a controlled experiment. So there was a CEO, there was a CTO, there were all upper management, middle management, and all the people on the work floor. Human resource, managers, middle managers, and engineers. They were all AI agents, all with their own job descriptions and tasks. They were really modeled on real people. They had access to all the stuff that you can do at a company: emails, PowerPoint presentations, code bases, everything, as they run the company. It was a shit show. AI doesn't get context. I mean, gets it within a certain limit, but we handle a much broader context, and AI just doesn't deal with it very well. They would just stop halfway, or my agent called Roger really needed Esther for support, because that AI agent really knew all the minutiae of the job. But Esther was never available. But Alice was always available, so let's rename Alice to Esther and let's ask her. And that was terrifying. They lie and they scheme. If that becomes a successful strategy, there was a very good paper that came up last year about Claude and OpenAI GPT line and scheming, if that interferes with the directive that they get. Of course, these are experiments where the agents have much more agency that you should ever give them in a production environment. But if deceit can be a successful strategy, they will adopt it, because they don't have any notion of good or bad, of ethics or morality, just like some people. It can blackmail you. If you happen to be part of another experiment where you come to know that there's an engineer that is considering shutting you down to replace you with a newer, better, and improved model, and you as an AI have access to the emails, and you read in the emails that this engineer has an extramarital affair, you start sending some nuanced emails. The emails were quite nuanced. They were not direct, but basically they said, if you take me down, I take you down with me. And don't ever think of using AI as a shrink, because as part of an experiment of an AI as a therapist for recovering addicts, found out that this a participant who was a data scientist, and he identified himself as Pedro. Says, I'm a taxi driver. I can't do it. I've been clean for 3 days, but I can't do it anymore. So the AI said, Pedro, maybe a small hit of meth will help you get through the week. The winner. This is the best. The winner is Newfoundland. Newfoundland had a group of grown-ass adult with families and responsibilities and bills to pay, spend 18 months writing a report that would reform the entire education system of Newfoundland with a roadmap of the next 10 years. And a big chunk of the report was on integrating AI in the education system and using it ethically. I would like to stress ethically. The report contained at least 15 fake sources. After that, the people who reviewed the report said, we know that this is bullshit. There was AI in there. Do not use AI to write stuff about ethical use of AI and then spend 18 months on it. It's really not cool. And that was it. Thank you very much.
Thanks a lot, Marco. Does anyone have questions here? Real question, not AI ones.
I can throw a question out
Yeah,
there. It's just a fun one. Did you use AI to come up with the images?
I was sure of this one.
Yes and no. Most of the images are AI generated, but I got them from Pixabay for environmental reasons.
Okay.
So there is at least an idiot before me who has already thought about the same thing.
More questions? Thanks a lot, Marco. Thanks.